Day 2 of the Las Vegas Raiders training camp has officially ended, and today I want to talk about some of the updates that are coming out, some of the things that we're hearing, some of the things that we're seeing. Do understand full pads are not 100% on at this point. It's really just shells at this point. And although the Raiders are going, mostly, I don't want to say 100% full speed, but, they are going full speed or as close as you can go without trying to hurt one another out there. The Raiders have started to ramp it up a little bit, and we got some updates that are coming out. The first one here, you guys can see Malcolm Koonce is out there. He's looking healthy. He's looking good. He's stretching in this video specifically. But I can't wait for Malcolm Koonce to get out there during preseason, the first week of the actual regular season. I can't wait to see where Malcolm Koonce is at this point in the recovery. And I'm excited as hell for Koonce, man. I've always loved Koonce's tape, pretty much since this guy came in his rookie season. I always said this guy flashes like just huge upside. And in the 9-game stretch that Antonio Pierce ultimately took over, the guy looked really, really, really good. And obviously, he unfortunately tore his ACL, but I think as he goes forward, he should be good to go. He should be fully recovered. I just wanted to show you guys that video really quickly. Koonce looks pretty good. We also got another report. Thayer Munford has officially returned to practice after missing the first day of training camp. So I'm not sure exactly what happened with Munford yesterday, but I hope everything is okay with him, his family, and I hope everything is good. But I am glad that he's back. The guard battle for the Raiders, right? Thayer Munford's going to definitely be 100% involved in that. And I'm excited to see what this guy can do as a full-time guard. He'll always still have the flexibility to play tackle, right? You lose 2 tackles in any given game. Worst case scenario, Munford can jump back out to tackle. But I'm mostly excited to watch what this guy can do at the guard position. I think he fits the scheming system really well. Glad he's back. Let's go ahead and move forward, man. So today we got a lot of really, really interesting updates that are coming out. Yesterday we heard specific things like, linebackers that are supposed to be out there, in our base defense. We heard a little bit about some of the wide receivers as well for the Raiders, right? Which guys are kind of working with the first team unit. And we got another update. And I think this one's absolutely huge because this kind of puts into perspective what the Raiders value in a guy like Jamal Adams. Now, I want to just take a step back and really think about some of what John Spytek said yesterday, early morning, as well as what the Raiders have done this entire offseason with all the veterans they brought in at the linebacker position. The Raiders coming into the season were clearly not happy with the unit from last season, and they let the 2 main starters walk. Even some of the other guys that we had, right, Luke Masterson as an example, they never brought him back. And they went in there and brought a bunch of veterans in. They went out there and got Jermaine Pratt, who I think is a really good linebacker, Devin White, Landon Roberts, Jalen Smith. And they also went out there and signed Jamal Adams. Now, John Spytek told us yesterday morning that Jamal Adams will not be a traditional safety, right? He'll be playing mainly around the line of scrimmage. Now, I don't think he said specifically that he'll be like a strong safety or a box safety. I don't think he used that verbiage, but don't quote me on that. But I do know for a fact he said that Jamal Adams will be playing around the line of scrimmage. Now, today, this guy was actually working out with the linebackers during the individual drills, but even during the team drills, he was still with the linebacking unit, and I want to talk about what this means. Jamal Adams is kind of a weapon out there, right? He's a weapon for any given defense. The guy has well over 20 sacks in his career. Working around the line of scrimmage, the guy's had his best years, the most production. The guy's a really, really, really good box player, and the closer you get him to the line of scrimmage, the better he is. And at this point, I think Jamal Adams as a linebacker is the best thing the Raiders can do. So when Jamal Adams is out there working with the linebackers, there's a couple of things that are happening. When you're a safety and you're lining up 40 yards back or 20 yards back or 30 yards back, the vision that you have with your eyes is a lot further, right? You're looking at the quarterback and he's 30 yards away from you. You have to make sure the wide receivers kind of stay in front of you. The vision's different when you're practicing as a safety. When you're a linebacker, again, completely different, right? As a linebacker, things change, right? As a linebacker, you're within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage, 6 yards, 7 yards, and the vision, again, is a little bit different. You're not worried about a wide receiver potentially getting behind you because you're a linebacker, right? It's just different. And Jamal Adams is working with the Raiders at the linebacker position. He stayed with the linebackers during the team drills. Chances are he's going to be a linebacker for the Raiders. Now, also do note, I don't know if he's going to play the traditional stacked linebacker position, right? You think about like Robert Spillane, where he's always kind of lined up for the Raiders. I don't think Jamal Adams is going to be playing that type of position, but I do think he'll be playing a lot of like, lining up on the line of scrimmage. The Raiders come out in base defense. Yesterday, it was put out there that Jermaine Pratt lined up on the line of scrimmage. The Raiders were in like a base 4-man front with Pratt lining up on the line of scrimmage. He was like the 5th guy on the line of scrimmage. I think Jamal Adams could play that role for the Raiders, and then Jermaine Pratt could essentially drop back into the stack position. And I think that's going to give the Raiders the ability to be big and strong with their defense. You're playing base, but you're not having like a traditional linebacker on the line of scrimmage. Instead, you have Jamal Adams, who's a safety. He can drop back, and he can still run with tight ends. So, to me, this is really, really, really interesting, and the role that the Raiders have for this guy is going to be an interesting thing to kind of keep an eye on. And I also want to just kind of throw this out there. Do not sleep on Jamal Adams. I'm telling you guys, this was one of the best players on the defensive side in the NFL. When this guy first came into the NFL, the first 5 years he had was absolutely incredible. And he started to go downhill, honestly, as he kind of got a little bit older, but mainly when the injury happened. And he hasn't been able to stay healthy, but that doesn't mean that if he's not healthy, he still won't be a productive player. I don't want to compare Jamal Adams to Charles Woodson, but I'm going to use this as an example. There was a time when Charles Woodson in his old age came back to the Raiders, and the guy was easily our best defensive player, one of the best that we had. The guy was making plays, intercepting passes, and that was like his final year of his career. The guy was a lot slower, and you could just kind of see it, but he was still really good because he was really smart. And Jamal Adams will have that type of factor for the Raiders. So I'm really, really excited for this Raiders defense. Jamal Adams, Jermaine Pratt, Maxx Crosby, hopefully Christian Wilkins at some point, Malcolm Koonce. Those are some guys that are ballers, right? Or at least they have been in the past if they're healthy. So I'm excited as hell for the Raiders defense. Another guy that actually had a nice play in practice for the Raiders was Tyree Wilson. So the team period had just begun, and Tyree Wilson just got a would-have-been sack on Geno Smith. Maxx Crosby, who celebrated with Wilson, said yesterday the team plans on using him as an edge rusher and in the interior line. So Tyree Wilson essentially got a sack today in practice. Now, I would love to know which offensive tackle lost to Tyree Wilson, but I also want to just say this, I hope this is a sign that Tyree Wilson is about to start having success for the Raiders, and I do hope he ends up breaking out for the Raiders. We cannot overlook the fact that he was the 7th overall pick. Imagine if the Raiders took Jalen Carter. Imagine if they took Darnell Wright. We would have a franchise right tackle. We'd have a franchise defensive tackle. We'd have guys that are an absolute elite football players had the Raiders drafted one of those guys over Tyree Wilson. But we took Tyree Wilson because of the potential and upside, so I hope this is the year where it all kind of comes together. There's been players in the past where it took them like 3 to 4 years for it to really develop and for them to become good football players. We've seen guys, just using as an example, Trayvon Walker became a lot better in his 3rd year last year than in the past years. We've seen guys like Rashawn Gary take a massive leap in year 3. We've seen guys on the offensive side, right, like Colt Miller, Spencer Brown, elite offensive tackles, where it took them until like year 3 or 4 to really put it together. And I hope this is the year for Tyree Wilson because the Raiders put such a high pick in him. We'll see what ends up happening. Love the fact that he got the sack. But again, we'll love to know who it was that he beat. Keep in mind, the first team unit on the offense went up against the first team unit on defense. So it wasn't like it was backups versus backups. It was first team on both sides. Now, Aidan also took some first team snaps at quarterback, which I think is kind of interesting. He took some snaps. We'll kind of follow that a little bit as well. I don't know if it actually means anything, or if the Raiders just want to get some of the backups at key positions. They just want to kind of get those guys reps because it wasn't just Aidan O'Connell. There's a couple other guys that swapped in. We'll get to that here in a second as well. There's a couple other updates. It's kind of sticking with that offensive side. Geno Smith ruled to his left, and he hit Jakobi Meyers for a big gain down the left sideline. Not a lot of passing plays being dialed up early on. O'Connell and Geno Smith are splitting a lot of reps with the first team unit, of course, as I just mentioned. I spoke to the guy that I speak to at camp. He didn't have a lot of time. He said that he was kind of headed into like the presser area, but he mentioned to me that Jacoby Myers has looked really, really, really good, and he said that he's confident Jacoby Myers is going to be like the true number one wide receiver for the Raiders. Anytime the Raiders have went into 13 personnel, Jacoby Myers is the only wide receiver out there on the football field. So that kind of shows you what the Raiders think about him as well, and how they plan to kind of utilize which wide receiver at which position. And we've also been hearing, Dante Thornton's like the number 2 guy right now for the Raiders. We'll kind of keep an eye on that as we kind of go forward. But I love the fact that Jacoby Myers right now is absolutely flashing. I think this is a really, really, really good sign for the Raiders. We have a ton of weapons, man. We just need to have a couple guys really step up and really take that leap, right? Now, as I stated, Geno Smith, Aidan O'Connell, they're kind of swapping back and forth with one another. They're not the only guys that are swapping back and forth. In fact, Sean Reed puts it out there that Jordan Meredith got a lot of reps at center today for the Raiders. He got a lot of reps with the first team unit specifically. And he even put it out there. He said that Jackson Powers-Johnson is at practice, but Meredith is getting more work today. You had a question here by Jorge. He said, did Jackson Powers-Johnson get any left guard snaps? And Sean Reed quickly answered no. So what this tells me is that the Raiders are, they understand the situation that this team is in. Pete Carroll wants to compete to win a Super Bowl this season. And the 2 most important positions, I think, to being able to win, and if that position goes down, you can still continue to have success, is going to be your quarterback position and your center position. And what I mean by that is this. If you have a backup left tackle, right, a guy that's a second team unit left tackle, and he takes every single snap with the second team unit, if your starter goes down, the guy that's taking the backup snaps can easily jump into that left tackle or right tackle position. And there's no like, hey, I need to know, the guy next to me, or I need to communicate, or I need to learn certain concepts or certain things. But it's different if you're a quarterback. It's different if you're a center. And here's what I mean by that, right? If you're Aidan O'Connell, and let's just say Geno Smith starts, he goes down, Aidan O'Connell steps in. Aidan O'Connell has to be able to get out there, and he has to be able to talk to the receivers. He has to be able to line these guys up. He has to be able to talk to the running back. He has to be able to talk to the offensive lineman. The same thing with the center holds true. Aidan O'Connell has to be able to talk to that center, because the center oftentimes is one doing the communication with the guys up front. The same thing is true the other way around, right? Like, if Jackson Powers-Johnson were to go down, Jordan Meredith would then have to step in at center, and he has to know all the calls for the Raiders, right? He has to be able to talk to every single one of the guys. He has to be able to communicate to them, and he has to be able to communicate with both quarterbacks and be on the same page as both quarterbacks. So I am not surprised that earlier, I was saying that Geno Smith as well as Aidan O'Connell were taking snaps with the first team unit, and I'm also not surprised that they're doing the same thing with the center. I don't think there's any sort of battle between Aidan O'Connell and Geno Smith. And I also don't think there's any sort of battle between Jackson Powers-Johnson and Jordan Meredith. I'm pretty sure you and I can agree that Geno Smith's going to be the quarterback. Jackson Powers-Johnson is going to be the center. I think Aidan and Jordan working with the first team unit is more just to get those guys on the same page and to get them the reps they need in case they have to be called upon during a regular season game. But this also takes me to another point. Jordan Meredith getting the backup center snaps, which he's taken in OTAs and minicamp as well, and now he's getting those same snaps, tells us that the Raiders think this guy is your backup center. So this also tells me Jordan Meredith is locked to make the Raiders 53-man roster. I'm almost 100% sure this guy's going to be on the roster. Not that I wouldn't have, said that earlier. Yeah, I probably would have said he's one of the guys that makes the roster, but I'm confident at this point this guy makes the roster. I think Jordan Meredith provides you so much value because he's a backup center, but he can play guard as well, and he's actually good at all 3 of those positions, right? It's not like he's like an average player. Like, he's actually good. At the same time, Dylan Parham was once a center for the Raiders. He was once their backup center, and it doesn't seem like this new regime values Parham as a center, which could also mean the value of him as a player, if he's not a starting guard, is a little bit lower. If he's not healthy, it could be a little bit lower. So that's just something to kind of keep an eye on as we kind of go forward. I'm definitely looking forward to continue to watch Jordan Meredith grow. I'm looking forward to the battle at that position as well. There's another report that's coming out here. Jesse Merrick is the one that puts this out. This is something that I actually had heard as well for day one specifically. But he's saying the cornerback battle is really off and running. In team, it looked like they mix everybody in at different times. If there's one positional unit that I'm really not sure about when it comes to the Raiders, it is definitely the cornerback position. I'm not sure which guys are going to end up starting. I know in OTAs and minicamp, they threw Darian Porter in there. They threw in Eric Stokes, and those were the two guys for most of the time. They rotated in guys like Lonnie Johnson. But today, they swapped in multiple guys, right? It wasn't just Darian. It wasn't just Eric. According to the reports, Jacorin Bennett came in. Sam Webb's another guy that came in. And Sam Webb made a play yesterday, right? He almost intercepted a pass as well. So the Raiders are mixing in a bunch of different corners. And I love the fact that they're doing this because, one, we're not really sure which guy's going to start for the Raiders. Two, we need to see multiple guys in there. We need to get the best possible players that are essentially available. Jacorin Bennett might be the Raiders' best corner. And if he is, to me, the scheme element of it should not matter, right? If you're only saying we want corners that are 6'2", 230 plus pounds, but Jacorin Bennett's your best, you got to put Bennett in there, right? It doesn't make sense to not put Jacorin in there just because he might not match like a physical, he's not tall enough or he's not strong enough or whatever, right? At the end of the day, the job of a cornerback is to cover. And I like the fact that the Raiders are mixing it up. I think the cornerback battle does have a true battle element to it. I don't know who the two starting corners are. At this point, we're all just kind of guessing. And I like the fact that the Raiders have really opened it up and they're not just sticking to Stokes and to Darian Porter. Do not overlook the fact that John Spytek and Pete Carroll both think this cornerback room is actually a lot better than what people are out there generally saying, right? Our general manager, our coach actually have a lot of confidence in that secondary. We got a couple other things that I want to talk about. Jesse Merrick also said the safeties had a nice day today. Isaiah Pola-Mao with the first pick. Then on the next series against the Twos, Trey Taylor snagged one. The Raiders offense opened it up more today and pushed the ball down the field a lot more than yesterday. I had heard that, Jacoby Myers had a nice catch. Trey Tucker had a nice catch as well. There's a couple other people that have been, having good early on camp, right? And again, it's not full pads. Just kind of keep that in mind. But I love the fact that Isaiah Pola-Mao had an interception today and Trey Taylor also had an interception. Isaiah Pola-Mao is a guy that, I'm not 100% sold on with the role specifically for the Raiders. Of course, guys always get better and they always develop. And that's definitely a general part of the NFL as you kind of get better. But the thing with a guy like Isaiah Pola-Mao is if he's a free safety, what's he able to do? Right? And we don't know where this pick happened. We don't know if he was lined up on the line of scrimmage, if he was playing as a post safety, a split safety. We don't know. Right? But the one thing I will say is a really good sign that he's getting an interception at this point. I would have loved to know the offensive design, the defensive play call, where these guys kind of lined up. But, that's something for a completely different day. Right? When we actually have tape, when we actually have football and those type of things. Regardless of that, man, I like the fact that Isaiah Pola-Mao got the pick. Same with Trey Taylor. Trey Taylor was once considered the best safety in college, right? Or at least he got that award from the coaches. I want to see this guy actually have some playing time this season. I want to see what this guy can do in his second year. Trey Taylor has so much upside and potential, and I think he could be a legit free safety for the Raiders. Right? I think Trey Taylor is a legit starting caliber free safety. He's a cover guy, in my opinion, so he's a guy that I definitely want to see kind of take that next step. Finally, just something that Ashton Jeanty said during his presser today, which to me was kind of interesting. But Ashton Jeanty said that he's a little bit lighter right now, and he did that so he could add more speed to his game. Not that Ashton Jeanty wasn't already super fast and super quick, but he's coming in a little bit lighter this season. And I want to talk about what this means. Because we always hear like, hey, I worked and I added some weight this season, or I added some muscle this season, or I'm a little bit lighter this season. In the offseason, every single player is given an assignment, right? Every coaching staff will sit down with their players. And specifically, let's talk about this in context. At the end of the regular season, right? Players will have exit interviews. And the players are assigned like, hey, we need you to get stronger, or hey, we need you to add 15 pounds. Hey, we need you to do X, Y, and Z this offseason. And then when those guys come back in, February, March, April, May, whenever it is, they're expected to have essentially done that. Now, Ashton Jeanty hasn't been with the Raiders, so in his instance, the Raiders could have talked to him, come April or May, and they could have told him that, hey, for training camp, we want you to try to get a little bit lighter, maybe add some more speed, or he could have had that individual goal himself. But for him, what that means is he's going to go out there and he's going to work on agility. He's going to work on his jump cut. He's going to work more so of like the speed element of things as opposed to lifting heavy weight. I'm sure he still lifts weights, but to me, the fact that this guy's trying to get a little bit lighter, add a little bit of speed to his game, add a little bit of quickness, change of direction. I will always say this, straight line speed is the most overrated aspect of being a running back. Your vision, right, is a lot more important. And then not only is the vision important, but then to be able to react, right? So like, let's say Ashton Jeanty's running towards the left guard and a linebacker jumps that gap and then he looks to his right and he sees a small crease. How quickly can he process that crease, change direction, right? Like put the left foot into the ground, change direction, and then get back up to 100% speed and then potentially run away from guys, right? That's what he's saying he's essentially worked on, right? When he says he wanted to add speed to his game, he's talking about the quickness, change of direction. And I'm so excited to watch Ashton Jeanty this season, man. Again, I think the Raiders are going to be so much better this season. We've added so much talent over the last 2 to 3 months on the defensive side, right? Devin White, you add Jermaine Pratt. And Jermaine Pratt's the big one, right? Do not overlook him. Jamal Adams comes in just a couple days ago. You're continuously getting better. You're continuously adding weapons. You're trying to become that type of team that you can kind of look forward to. Not like long term, right? Like let's get young players that can develop. Like you're trying to get to that spot today. You're trying to add veterans and players that are just better, right? And don't think the Raiders are old, right? We're one of the youngest teams in the NFL. So I'm excited, man. We'll see what ends up happening. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you did, consider subscribing. We will continue to cover the Raiders at camp. I will continue to cover them. Our preseason games 2 weeks away at this point. So thumbs up, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time with another video.